Hello, everyone, and welcome to Louisville Focus. I'm in the ultimate pumpkin patch, and I'm waiting for the great pumpkin. But the good news is you don't have to wait because we're right here in Iroquois Park getting ready for the Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. We're going to give you a look behind the scenes on Louisville Focus. Welcome in. When you think about Halloween, perhaps you think about witches and goblins, maybe a little mystery, a little spooky. But here at Iroquois Park, it's the wow factor. It's the Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. And we're talking now to Brooke Pardue, who's with the Parks Alliance of Louisville. Brooke, welcome in. This is an exciting time, isn't it?
It really is. We look forward to this every year.
You know, when I say wow factor, I mean to a Disney level. And I am not exaggerating. For those who have been, they know that this is truly jaw-dropping, unbelievable. It is truly a spectacular, right?
Right. Well, people like to say, well, describe the show to me. And you can't describe it. It is indescribable. It's just otherworldly. And so my response is always, you just need to come and you have to experience it yourself, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's no way to describe 5,000 pumpkins, on a third of a mile trail through the historic woods of Iroquois Park.
Woo. Yeah, here on Louisville Focus, we like to show people behind the scenes. So you're helping us pull back the curtain a little bit. And in this brief time that I've spent behind the scenes and behind where everything happens, I'm amazed. A lot of pumpkins, a lot of art, you call them artisans? What do you call them? I mean, they're unbelievable. So tell me a little bit about what goes into this.
So we contract with Passion for Pumpkins. There are only 3 locations in the world where you can see Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. Started in Providence, Rhode Island. Louisville was the second city, and now they're in Minnesota. But in Rhode Island and Minnesota, they're at their zoos. And so here in Louisville, it's the only location where you can walk through the woods, which just completely changes how you experience the event. So we have more than 30 local artists that are paid to create these organic masterpieces. And this year's theme is Trivia Night Pumpkin Edition. So for the regulars out there, they know we have a different theme every year. So this year it's Trivia Night. So every skit on the trail is going to ask you another trivia question, and the pumpkins will be your multiple choice answers. And then you need to figure out what the answer to the question is. It's going to be fabulous.
It seems to get bigger and better every year. I remember even driving through it during COVID.
Right.
You guys have always adapted with the change and still giving people what I call the wow factor. But here's another reason to say wow, is the fact that the money that you gather goes for a good cause. Talk about that.
Yes, so the Parks Alliance of Louisville is a nonprofit that supports more than 100 of our Louisville metro parks. And we have a mission to equitably invest in our public parks to improve the health and well-being of our community. So we do projects like the new park in the California neighborhood, Alberta O. Jones Park. We are getting ready to completely reimagine Ballard Park in the Smoketown neighborhood. So I like to say that a portion of every ticket sold to this event, not only is this a tremendous experience, but you're making an investment right back into our public parks that we treasure so much here in Louisville.
Wow. Brooke, this had to be, I would think, quite a financial commitment and a little bit of a roll of the dice in the beginning. You're going, I hope this works. Obviously, you've exceeded probably all expectations, both not only from the emotional side, but also the financial side. Talk about where it was and where it has come.
So this is our 12th year. The first year was in 2013. And honestly, back then, the Parks Alliance had 8 people on the board, no staff. And because of Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular and the money that we're able to make off of that, we are now a team of 7 people. I came on as the first employee back in late 2017. We've now expanded to 7 people, and last year we invested more than $5 million into our public parks.
Wow.
Yeah. So this event, I like to say, we would not exist as we are today were it not for Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular. Last year, we welcomed 110,000 guests.
Woo. 110,000 guests. So this is really just another reason to love pumpkins, right? There's, of course, there's pumpkin pie.
That's exactly right.
Pumpkin muffins. There's pumpkin spice coffee.
Yeah.
But you really love some pumpkins now, don't you, Brooke?
I tell you what, these are my babies. And yeah, people are shocked in Louisville. 65% of the people who come to the show come from out of town. We got with Louisville Tourism last year and shared like the zip codes of all the people who bought tickets. They said that translates into about 7,000 heads and beds during the month of October. So the economic impact to Louisville is huge. The financial impact to allow the Parks Alliance to do the work that we do is tremendous. And then we're doing it all with this incredible event that is turned into this family favorite year after year. So it really is a win-win-win-win situation.
Yeah, because of all of that economic impact that you alluded to there, and is certainly confirmed and true.
Yeah.
It's a positive on the financial side of the equation, but also I would think for you though, the rewarding side is seeing not just the children, which is the best part, but the adults too who come in here and go, wow, this is Louisville, this is magical. And it truly is magical, right?
It really is. I was so funny. My favorite place to hang out during the show is at the end of the trail and watch people come off. And one night it was late on a weeknight and I was just kind of standing there listening, and this family came off the trail and they were in this big debate. And the dad was the only one in the family that said, there is no way those pumpkins are real. I'm not believing it. You can't convince me. No way those intricate pumpkins are real. And so I walked up to him and I said, do you guys have a little time? And they're like, yeah. And I said, I can answer this question for you if you have about 10 or 15 minutes. And they're like, well, okay. And I brought him back here. And I said,
real.
Dad, these are real pumpkins. And it was the most amazing way to end their evening and my evening. We always try to exceed our guest expectations.
Well, you've already exceeded our expectations. And now as you're watching the show, you're going, okay, I want to see, are they real? I want to see how it's done. So we're going to take you back to, what do you, again, I'm confused. Are they painters? Are they carvers? What are these folks?
They are artists.
They are artists, okay.
They are artists.
A behind the scenes look at some of these artists and the work that they do here. Once again, it is the Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular at Iroquois Park. Let's take a look-see.
I started working on pumpkins for the very first time ever 4 years ago. I walked the trail with my friends and family for years, and I was always like, how did I do that? What's going on here? What tool does that? What is the black that's on? Is that marker? Is that paint? Came in, tried my very first pumpkin 4 years ago, and was absolutely hooked. I thought, this is such a fun medium. Like, forget about, I'm a painter, so I like canvas, but I like to explore different options, and working on a pumpkin that's live and juicy and you can dig into it and use tools to kind of carve away at it, absolutely having a field day. I am an official pumpkin carver. Do have a subject that I lean towards in my own profession with working with art and painting. I love cartoons and illustrations, so I'm drawn to the more illustrative, kind of graphic novel type style. So I do a lot of characters, a lot of animated features, a lot of cartoons and like stuff for the kids. That's me. I think I'm a big kid at heart. It's a great way to show off your skills in an unusual setting, in an unusual form. I know being a 2D artist, you see a painting in a gallery and that's, one experience, but this is such a delight for the senses all around. When you walk the trail, you are actually out in nature. You're hearing the sounds of the wind and the leaves. You're shuffling along, kicking some rocks, and you're seeing these gorgeous pumpkins just glow as they're floating out in magic. It's just a delight for all of the senses. The longest that it took was actually Mount Catmore. I've recently become kind of a cat lady, and I'm okay admitting that now. So I got to put 4 cats on Mount Rushmore, thus Mount Catmore. That one probably took about 5 hours from the actual drawing to carving. And the shortest one was actually Home Alone. That's one of my favorite movies, and I know we're not in Christmas season, but kind of that expression of Kevin McAllister gives you the scream, you know, the iconic ah. That one was all about the expression and promoting the contrast of that particular piece. So that one really kind of jumped off, and I was surprised it did not take that long to do. I get a lot of, well, how do you keep the pumpkins from spoiling? And you don't. They are real living fruit. We call them living art. You see them on the trail, and then maybe the next day the weather's too hot and they spoil and they're gone, so you have to make a new one. So they are perishable. Thus is the life of the pumpkin. And then I think another thing people are really curious about are the actual tools that we use. To create glitter or magic, you could have knocked me over with a feather the first time a fellow artist showed me this. Using a simple screw that you might just have lying around in a toolbox, puncture that pumpkin and it looks like glitter. I don't know how that actually works, but with the black of the ink and the way the pumpkin is glowing from within, and if you use a screw or a nail head, it actually looks like glitter to the eye. So it's fun. What simple tools, I know people are used to using regular carving tools or you can pick up at your grocery and whatnot. Use found tools. You never know how that's going to read on a pumpkin, and it's fun to experiment. The life of the pumpkin is something that I had to get used to, and that's a learning curve we learned from year 1. You get so attached to it. It's your baby. You want it to look perfect, but then in the end, it is a living fruit. It is a living work of art, so you have to just send it out into the world and be okay if it spoils, and I've had some pumpkins spoil before they even get to the trail. Such is the life, but as long as you learn, don't get too attached to it. There will be another pumpkin, there will be more art, but that's another encouragement for people to come see the pumpkins. You can see something different almost every single time you walk the trail. You have to love orange. You have to love orange, you have to love Halloween, you have to get into the spirit and the magic of working with all these pumpkins and just enjoy every second of it.
Now that you've seen some of the artists at work, you probably have more of a passion for pumpkins. Well, Travis Reckner certainly has a passion for pumpkins, so much so that he named his company that. I kid you not, right, Travis?
Yeah, that's what it is.
You know, I compare you, I have to tell you, I compare you to like, okay, Eddie Van Halen. He works hard on his guitar, he realizes that people enjoy it, and suddenly he's a rock star. You're the rock star of pumpkins, right?
I'll take that.
Okay, you are. So tell folks, because we had a brief conversation and you were telling me how it started. This is fascinating to me. How did all this start?
In 1988, I was like 14 or so, giving it away. My dad had this idea of creating a fundraiser in our small little town, and it was a couple hundred pumpkins on the hillside behind the elementary school that I grew up. And, you know, year 1, it was 200-300 pumpkins and 1,000 people came, and then year 2, it went up to 500 pumpkins and 10,000 people came, and it just grew and got bigger and bigger. So they moved it to the high school because there was more parking, and there was no hillside there, but there were woods. So we started putting them in the woods, and then we added music, and every year it just got better and evolved, and the artistry got better. And then Providence, Rhode Island approached us about turning it into a fundraiser for their zoo. And that kind of became the formula of creating these fundraisers for nonprofits.
Wow, wow. So your relationship with Louisville, obviously it's grown here. It seems like every year, different theme. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the theme and how much bigger and better and more awe-inspiring it is now.
Well, and every year we make it bigger and you make it better. You know, and people ask, well, it's got to be a ceiling, but I don't think so. There's ways of improving it vastly. But that's the key to us, so it doesn't become mundane or boring, is we change the theme every year. So last year it was Wanderlust, so it was the deep desire of travel. So we had 110 of these pumpkins that all represented that theme. Now this year, this is the first year we've done, is a night of trivia. So there'll be 18 trivia questions where all the images pertain to whatever that question is.
When I opened the show with Brooke, I talked about Disney-esque, and certainly the scale of this is huge. Now, you mentioned some of these premier pumpkins. I think you said 100 some odd there, but how many total pumpkins? How big is this thing?
There's 111 of these. We call them intricates because, you know, some of these can take anywhere from typically about 6 hours to draw a carve. But I mean, sometimes you're talking 8, 10, 12 hours. I mean, we had one pumpkin, it was 500 pounds. This is about 80 pounds. We had a 500-pound pumpkin that took 55 hours, one artist, you know, so, you know, it's a real labor of love. That's why we're passionate for pumpkins. Now, behind the backdrop of the showstoppers, we try to maintain 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns up in trees in the background. As we call it, the population of Pumpkinville is 5,000 or greater. If it's warm and rainy, you know, sometimes it's tough to keep that par. But once it gets cool and dry, then it's a much easier feat, you know. It's very weather dependent.
So Travis, if I'm going to make pumpkin pie, this would be the place to come. I think there's probably plenty of pumpkin here, right?
There's a lot of pumpkin here. Now, a lot of it gets smelly and squishy, so, and you gotta like fruit flies. If you're afraid of fruit flies, don't come around here.
Not a job for you, huh?
No.
I want to see you go to work here because you were telling me that, yes, you have these artists, but you were saying there is some coaching involved by you because this is a little bit different than painting on a canvas, right?
It is. Now, the skin of the pumpkin, it takes ink differently than paper or a canvas or a brick wall. We have a lot of mural artists who are really amazing and tattoo artists, but the skin doesn't absorb it like paper or canvas. So you got to learn how to play with it and be patient with it because it can get real muddied almost. It's almost like using watercolors.
Okay.
So yeah, the first thing you got to do is get the image on the pumpkin. That's the most important part. And we use grayscale and black ink. There's no colors involved because it washes out, it mutes it with the orange of the pumpkin. Once you get your image on and you give it value, it's kind of like a tattoo artist where they'll put the pattern on the arm, but then they have to come through and give it value and give it the shading, which really gives it the three-dimensional pop.
Okay, so there's a foundation and then there's the adding until it comes to life.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And then once you get that to where you're done painting your image, then the magic really happens is where you take your different tools. There's different carving heads. And the deeper you make your incision, the brighter the highlight's gonna be. Because you're really just removing highlights of whatever your image is. So, you know, what took you 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 hours, whatever it is, to paint the pumpkin, then you're probably gonna carve, you know, sometimes 30%, sometimes 50%, but you're just removing highlights. So where the light is like hitting my nose, where it's the brightest highlight, that would be a really deep incision, so that highlight will be brighter. So we'll go all the way from using a head to remove these to sandpaper to smooth it out and give it just a real light highlight. So between the dark and the black of the lowlights and the shadows, to the deep incisions, to the highlights, you get that real three-dimensional look where on the trail, it almost looks like a hologram, you know, and we like to put a few of the pumpkins close enough because a lot of people don't think they're real. And then they touch it and they're like, oh my God, it is real. But they also can't even, you can't focus on it because it looks like a hologram.
Oh, this is so interesting and obviously so intricate. There does have to be some, I guess, artist. An average Joe could never do something like this. But, right?
Well, I'm telling you.
You think so? Yeah, really, Travis.
Amazing what
really?
Joe can do.
What Joe can do. I'm definitely an average Joe. For you, though, I'm curious. In the beginning, it all started with, for you, I would think, the adrenaline and excitement of seeing kids who get like so excited. Yeah. Does that still exist?
Or even more so. You know, I have children now, and to see them, you know, their awe of they can't believe that's a pumpkin, you know, Or they ask me, Daddy, are you going to work today? You going to Pumpkin today? Oh, I can't wait to come see the pumpkins. And of course, all their famous favorite characters. Are you going to put this on a pumpkin? Oh, they'll be there. They'll be there. Don't worry.
So nice.
So it's really cool because for the longest time, you know, I've been doing this for almost 35 years now. It's pretty crazy to say. But it was really selfish where it was more, I was doing it from what I wanted to see. And I didn't really get with the little kids and the families. And then you have kids and you understand, just like what you're saying, to see the wonder and the awe in their expressions and faces is just, you know, it's, you can't even put a value on it.
So you're now doing this all over the country in different cities, different reasons, different charitable organizations. So your relationship with Louisville, how do you feel about Louisville? Because we always love to hear that here on Louisville Focus.
Well, I came here with my business partner, Paul, and we fell in love with the city. And then within a few weeks, we both met the love of our lives. And, you know, married, 4 kids later, it's the greatest place in the world. My heart is truly in Louisville. It's an amazing place.
I love hearing that. You articulated that very well. So with marriage and kids, you know, passion for pumpkins, you took it to another level, didn't you? You took it to a really high level there, Travis.
We did take it to a high level, man. We found love in the pumpkin patch.
I love hearing that. That's what it's all about here at Iroquois Park. Of course, it is the pumpkin, not the pumpkin, it's the jack-o'-lantern spectacular, and he transforms pumpkins into beautiful jack-o'-lanterns, beautiful carvings, art. Travis, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate you.
As you've probably gathered by now, the pumpkins are the star of the show, but there's a lot of moving parts, and as with any production, to make it spectacular, it's going to take a lot of people and a lot of folks and a lot of special effects. Eileen Day is with us. She's with the production team. So Eileen, obviously we've been focusing on the pumpkins, rightfully so, but there's more to it, right?
There sure is. We've got a great team here that we're back every year working together. We start way earlier than anyone would expect. We started pretty much as soon as one trail ends, we start thinking about the next one. Then we really start coming in the park in late spring, early summer, and we start talking about what props we want to build out there, what the theme of the trail is. Within the trail, we have what we call skits. So it's broken up into about 18 parts, and those are themed within themselves. So we start talking about what those might be, what the pumpkins could look like, what the music might be. We really start early.
Wow. So this is like a Broadway play, except for maybe a little bit more intricate when we have a Broadway production come into town. A couple of days, they're set up and ready to go. But you were talking about coming in spring, and you told me July too, you're here.
That's right. Well, we're here. We have to deal with everything we took down the year before, unpack, because it is like Tetris around here, packing all this stuff away at the end of a year. And then, yeah, just finding out how to repurpose old props, zhuzh up old props, build completely new props. This year, I'd say we have more new props out on the trail than ever before. I mean, they're almost everything is brand new and built just for this theme.
So how do you know, like, what color lights, what kind of music? Is it all built around this trivia theme that exists this year?
It is. This year is Trivia Night Pumpkin Edition. So what we have is 18 trivia questions along the way, which in turn are pretty much the skit titles. So there will be one correct answer, and that will be one of the pumpkins that come after that question. So we might throw some red herrings in there to throw people off, add little twists, little cheeky jokes in there. So it's going to be really fun, and we're trying to do it on all levels. So you've got like some pretty easy questions, and then some that really hopefully people will be working out there on the trail.
And all of these artists, how many people are we talking about here?
Well, for the intricate artists, we have about 25, but on our whole team, I'd say we're about 40 people up here working every day, especially leading up to this opening tomorrow.
Eileen Day, I wish you the best. I wish you luck. Your relationship with Louisville, I always like asking people what, when they come in here to Louisville, what do they like? What are the advantages of having a backdrop like Iroquois Park?
Oh, we are so lucky to be in the park and have this facility here. We just love being in the trees, being able to walk right out of our studio and up on the trail and see our pumpkins every night glowing and be with the people, hear people see it for the first time. There's nothing like being an artist and standing behind a little kid on the trail that's so excited about the pumpkin you made, and there's nothing like it. It's so special.
When you say see it for the first time, for those who haven't seen it, what would you tell them? It's kind of hard to describe because I keep using the word, Disney and Walt Disney because it is like that. It is really jaw-dropping.
It's a completely immersive, illuminated art installation.
What she said, yes.
with music and special effects and props and pumpkins and art, and there's so much to take in. You really have to come more than once, frankly. It's because it's impossible to take it all in. I could describe it all day, but you have to see it in person.
Okay, you heard it from Eileen. Yes, you have to see it in person.
To see it in person.
And it happens, as we mentioned, all the way through the first week of November. So come on out to Iroquois Park for the big Jack-o'-lantern spectacular. So when you think fall here in Louisville, of course, now you're thinking about the Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. When you think spring, it's a Kentucky Derby. That's how big it is, and it all benefits those Louisville parks that you come to know and love. So once again, head on out to Iroquois Park for the Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. It runs through the first weekend in November. Charlie Brown, I found the great pumpkin. Here it is.